We're back out on the bass buggy, and today we're talking Texas rigs versus jigs, when I like to use each one and which one I like better. Stick around, you don't want to miss this. Welcome back to Lowbrow Fishing. And you know, for a lot of anglers, the Texas rig is a staple of fishing. I talk about it all the time on this channel. It's an effective presentation, and it's a great way to catch fish, whether you're a beginner or whether you're an experienced angler. It's very versatile, there's a lot you can do with it, and it's just an effective tool to use. On the other hand, a lot of anglers seem like they're intimidated by jigs. They don't have a lot of confidence in them. They've never caught anything on them. And I think a lot of that has to do with not knowing the proper ways and places to fish them. So, in this video, I kind of want to address that a little bit. So, let's head out on the water, and I'll show you where I like to fish a Texas rig most times, and where I like to fish a jig most times, the differences between the two, and which one I tend to lean toward. So, let's go take a look. Well, here we are at the little lake. We have a 1/4 ounce bullet weight with a June bug colored stick bait that I made myself, and we're going to be fishing this through some grass. Now, the main focus here isn't, I guess, Texas rig versus jig, right? That's the title of the video. You've already seen the thumbnail. You already know what it looks like. And I'm going to show you what the differences are and how I like to fish a jig and how I like to fish a Texas rig. But there's a lot of guys out there who are very familiar with a Texas rig, very familiar with the Texas rig worm and how to fish one, but for some reason they just don't have much luck with a jig. And from what I've figured, that's because they're usually fishing a jig wrong. Jigs are actually really good baits, especially in the right situations. But see here, I'm fishing this Texas rig through grass, and that's what it excels through, grass and vegetation. I'm not going to be fishing a Texas rig through timber because that is not what it excels at. A Texas rig comes through grass. It comes through vegetation. That is what it does, and it does it very, very well. Better than any other presentation I can think of. However, this is not someplace, I mean, yeah, I would fish a swim jig through here, per se. But a swim jig, you're not dragging across the bottom most of the time. A swim jig, you are swimming it. You're doing the Alabama shake, you're doing twitches and pauses, but you're keeping it moving, so it's going to be generally higher up in the water column. Whereas something like a flipping jig, or an arky jig, or something along those lines, you're going to be keeping bottom contact with that for the most part. And you certainly don't want to pull a football jig through some heavy grass. And it's not because of the hook. The hook is, obviously, it's got a jig will generally have a brush guard on it. And that does great. A brush guard does great for helping that jig come through brush, coming through timber, coming through laydowns, coming through things of that nature, harder structure. Where a Texas rig, well, yeah, it will come through there, but it's not necessarily the best tool for the job in those situations, because most of the time, I mean, if you get your plastic hung up on it, that hook is going to come through that plastic a lot more easily. And you'll end up hook setting into a log, and you'll end up losing your bait. So, I mean, you can go through timber with it. You certainly can. just like you can go through grass with a flipping jig or an arky jig. It'll do it, but it's not necessarily the hook that's going to get hung up on things. That brush guard on the jig will keep that hook pretty clean. It's that line tie and the head that's where things get hung up. That's why you really don't want to fish a Ned rig in some place that's got really thick vegetation. There we go, I'm on. He hit it pretty good too. All right. Right in the top of the lip, just like you like to see. That's a nice fish right there. But anyway, what types of places do you like to throw a Texas rig? Do you like to throw a jig as well, or which one is your preferred presentation? What would you rather throw, a Texas rig or a jig? Let me know in the comments. Do you have any favorite places, any tips and tricks that you like to use for a Texas rig or a jig? Let us know. We're all about sharing knowledge on this channel. Post it in the comments section. Make sure you hit that like button. Let me know that you enjoy these videos. And while you're down there, might as well go ahead and, hit subscribe and hit those notifications. And we sure would appreciate seeing you over on the Reddit at r/bassangler. That's where we talk about bass fishing 24/7. Post pictures of your bass catches. Talk about different rigs and tips. We're building it into a really great resource. So come join us over there. There we go. Oh yeah, he's good. Oh, I lost it. Dadgum. That's what I get. I accidentally hit the thumb. He never had it. All he ever had was the tail. Huh. Get right back out there. That's strange. That's the second one all they ever had was the tail. There we go. Oh, no wonder. It's a little bitty guy. Get over here, little fellow. That's kind of funny. Okay. Quarter pounder. I mean, he wasn't going anywhere. That's kind of cute. Come on, you. Let me see what I got. There's that. Well, Mama said you couldn't have a lip piercing. But you got one. I mean, that's a pretty little fish. Cute little fish, but just a little quarter pounder with cheese. Thanks for playing, buddy. All right, we're back over here by this timber. We got a storm coming in, and we are fishing a jig. So we've got some heavier structure, some more solid structure. So we want to fish the jig on top of that. I've got a jig with a wacky rig worm on it. 3/8 jig. It's a little bit heavier than I wanted to be, but it's what I had, so that's what I'm using. And this is what I'm going to fish timber with, is a jig. Again, like we said before, you can fish a jig through grass, but it's going to have all kinds of slop on it every time you bring it in. And what about if we have a wood pile that we're trying to fish and it's got grass all around it? Well, you say, well, you're still trying to fish the wood pile. So you still want to fish the jig. The thing that most people, when they think of a jig, they think of something that's got a skirt on it, a lead ball, a tungsten ball, something that's got a skirt on the end of it, various colors. You put a trailer on it and you fish it. Well, while I'm trying to get my line untangled here, and that is certainly true, but there's so many things you can do with a jig. You see here I've taken the skirt off of it and I've got a stick bait rigged onto it, and we're going to be fishing it. This will cast a good distance. It's nice and aerodynamic, so I can get a really far cast with that. So, and this we can almost fish like a shaky head, which is what I'm going to do. I'm kind of going to get a little bit of a wiggle here, and I'm going to treat it pretty much like a shaky head. And this thing does pretty good around timber, which is where I'm using it at today. Right there, I just threw it right over the top of that log. So I'm going to come back and the thing is every time I hook a fish off of that log, there we go. Oh yeah. Every time I hook a fish off of that log, they try to go back under it, which is what this guy just tried to do. Hello, buddy. Oh, you weren't going anywhere. I had you good. Let me set my rod down. Good chunker. A little over a pound. So there you have it. When used together properly, jigs and Texas rigs can certainly complement themselves. Now, whenever I'm fishing from the bank in the heavily vegetated waters in my area, I prefer to throw a Texas rig most times, but I'll still have a jig tied on from time to time. If I'm in the bass buggy, I tend to have a jig tied on more often because I'm fishing deeper water that's not so densely vegetated and I'm fishing harder structure. So it depends upon the situation. As with any angler, you need to decide which one works best for you. So don't think that jigs are some mysterious bait that you'll never learn how to use. Once you start catching fish on them, you'll build confidence. And confidence is the key to anything. Thanks for watching Lowbrow Fishing. We'll catch you in the next one.